Ben, today we are going to talk about the gaps that we can see in communication in where we're working. So in my own experience, oftentimes people will put a ticket in Jira and just assume, okay, that person must know if it's assigned to them that they're responsible for the work. Or maybe you're using a tool like Monday or Slack, whatever it is. We rely on tools a lot in place of conversations with our actual teammates or the people that we need to be having conversations with. So I'm curious with you two here, like, where have you seen this? Is it just me? I have a feeling it might not just be me. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, and when do you know when to just pick up the phone or walk over to the person next to you if you can to actually have a conversation?
I think it's definitely something I've seen. No, I'll start with that. I think with many of these things, it's a horizon of like one end to another end. Like everyone talks face to face and everyone just uses a tool, and it's trying to find the right point on the horizon for where you are, where your team is, what day of the week it is, and so on and so forth. So it's making a judgment call, and I feel like many people don't accept that there's an in-between, and they just jump to one end or to another end. So, you know, everything must go in the tool. You're abandoning any other configuration of talking and whatever else. So once upon a time, like putting something into a tool or putting a few things into a tool was valuable. And somehow we've got to a place where everything must go into every tool at the expense of conversations and face-to-face interactions. So I think it's not about abandoning tools at all. It's about kind of acknowledging that, you know, some things probably don't need to be managed through a tool, and some things are still valuable to manage through a tool. But just to say one or the other is probably not valuable.
And Lena, as regards to your question, I think that there's a moment when if you are talking like through tickets, either whatever software you're using, when there are too many back and forth, like there's something that we are not like aligned, I think that's the moment to pick up the phone or to let's have a call, like 10 minutes call where, okay, are we understanding the same? What are we talking about? Because there's a lot of, we've seen, we have our own mental models, our beliefs, and maybe there, maybe we are understanding something, or we are judging the other person because of that. And I think that's the moment to stop, let's talk, and then let's go back.
Yeah, I think literally, that's like a good point. I think famously, there are a few companies who implemented that as a general rule for everyone. Like if you have 5 Slacks or emails back and forth, and you feel the need to write a 6th one, you shouldn't be writing a 6th one. You should be picking up the phone, or you should be going to talk to the person. And I know that companies have implemented that as a kind of guideline for stopping these kind of chains and chains of conversation that are lacking the context, which frankly, you know it, we all know it, like you go and talk to someone and the issue's cleared up within 90 seconds, right? So yeah, I think that's a really good insight.
I love that rule. When I worked at my last client, I oftentimes saw that there was just something missing from a conversation or a miscommunication. And one of my team members would say, you know, I'm just not getting the answer, or I haven't heard a response. And then I would just put a 15-minute calendar invite between the two people who are talking. And at first there's always like, oh, well, I don't think this needs to be meeting. And literally, to your point, Ben, within less than 3 minutes, oh, okay, I didn't know that that's what you wanted. Yeah, no, sure, no problem. Fixed right away. And I can't tell you how many times people have thanked me profusely for just setting up that meeting, for just being like, thank you so much. Like, that was amazing. That changed everything. And just for simply putting a 15-minute calendar invite to have 2 people talk. And I've used that so many times since, because I saw how much confusion there could be just over, you know, you might sense a certain tone from an email from another team, or you're having a bad day and you just need to have just a few minutes of a real conversation. And you realize neither of you are trying to attack the other one, or you're not trying to blame them for anything. You're on the same page and everyone leaves happier. And it's incredible how that small interaction saves so much time, and also like email data and Slack data, whatever it is that you're using.
It's interesting though, isn't it, Alana? Like, imagine like when we think about this continuum of one or the other, and like imagine when we were right down the other end, right? So imagine there were no tools, there was no email. Like, imagine how much effort was taken up on meetings. So we were always in meetings. Like everyone would schedule, I'll schedule a meeting because it's the only way I can get to solve a problem or whatever else. Like I'm always in meetings, and the advent of electronic communications and tools and stuff must have been like, oh, thank goodness, we've saved all this time in meetings. And we can now send emails and Slacks and whatever else. And obviously now we've jumped to this other end. And again, this highlights this idea of like, of course there are benefits to tools, but of course there are benefits across here as well. And I think it's about finding that space in the middle that works in the context you're in.
Yeah. I believe that like the tool, they're super useful, but they should reflect a conversation had, or at least some sort of agreement that two people are aware they were part of. Because oftentimes where I sit, I've seen as a scrum master and as a coach, just seeing tickets assigned to people. And then the person who assigned the ticket to someone gets mad when the person didn't do it, but then they never communicated to them actually saying, hey, like, did you see this? Do you understand? Do you have any questions? Like, those are the little things that make a huge difference in just managing expectations and knowing when work is going to be done, or if someone is confused about something, they might need a little bit more help to understand. And that's when a conversation could be really helpful. And then later, maybe the ticket or, whatever you're using could be updated or for documentation purposes. But I think you're right, Ben. It's like strikes a balance somewhere. And I think the one thing that I've seen a pain point is just like lack of understanding that if you're putting something into a tool, if you're expecting something to be done, there's another person on the end of that transaction. Like, and that person might need to be told, hey, like, let me know if you have a question about this thing. For sure. Yeah.
As I'm listening to you, Alana, it's like not losing the human factor, right? We are using a tool, technology. It helps our lives, our work. We are more agile, more standardized. However, let's not lose our human part. And the human part for me has to do with that, to have like a thought about, is this working? I'm not just sending a ticket. Am I clear with this request? Am I doing a follow-up? Not just leave it to the tool as a living thing, right? We are humans that we need to be integrated with technology. And for me, that's core, like, be intelligent and think. Now let's think what we are doing. Are we spending a lot of time with all this back and forth? The idea is that we are going to be more agile. No, let's think, let's pause, let's take a break and be human as well.
Yeah, and I think what you said about being integrated with technology is interesting, because I sometimes think of this like, the tool should be working for us. We shouldn't be working for the tool, right? So another way of saying that is the tool should fit our current way of working, not we change our current way of working to fit what the tool has on offer. And I find a lot of teams say, well, look, this workflow's in Jira or whatever. And a lot of teams will try and change fundamentally how they're working to match up with Jira, rather than Jira should be matching the way they're working. We also remember that these tools are like, they're there to cater for the 95% of things that are routine, right? So 95% things flow through the same workflow. They can flow through a tool. That's no problem. I think some people get in their head that 100% of things should be able to flow through this same process all the time. And that's just not the case. Like, we will have abnormalities in the way that we work, in the things that we deal with, that will require us to not fit into the established process and the established tool. So forcing that 5% of things, and it's probably more than 5%, it's probably 10% or 15%, forcing those 15 through this same pipe as the other 85%, of course it's going to have problems. And of course, that's where you're going to see these tickets that get dropped, or I don't know what you're talking about, or you've assigned it to me, but it's not me, so I'm going to assign it to Luci. It's like, of course that's going to happen if you think that you can manage and boil down like a very complex thing, which is product development, into a standardized workflow 100% of the time. It's just not realistic.
This is really is one of my favorite topics. And honestly, one of the most fulfilling things, a part of my job is like getting two people on a call and then hearing a resolution at the end that they like couldn't have reached otherwise or not as quickly. It's very fulfilling. Well, I think that's all the time we have for this. This was amazing. Lucci and Ben, thank you so much for your input. Curious what you at home or wherever you're watching this, what you think, thoughts on how you communicate with your tools and then in person. With that, that's all we have. Thanks, Ben and Lucci. I'll see you next time.